welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Capricorn, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of December 2023, if you can believe that. Happy birthday, Capricorn. I'm using the Edmund Dulac Tarot for you today. So before the reading begins, if it resonates and you'd like to go a little bit deeper, there will be an extended that you can access at the end. That is link number 1 in the description box. Link number 2 is to my private community, the Order of the Phoenix, over on Circle. You can get access to all of the extended content and hang out with a truly extraordinary group of people. So if that sounds like it's your bag, you know what to do. The third link is to the 6-month overview for your sign. It runs from January to June 2023. So if you want to check that out, you know what to do with that link. Right, Capricorn, let's have a look and see what's going on with you. I have 3 cards for Capricorn, please. Oh, there's the first one, straight out. We have a moon. That's a card of Cancer in the major arcana. Tell me about current energy. Whoa, 2 of Cups. So focus on the relationships, not necessarily your close, intimate sexual relationships. It can be all sorts of relationships, but we'll get into it. And what's coming towards Capricorn, please, for December? December for Capricorn is the King of Pentacles. Right, we've got the Knight of Pentacles at the bottom of the deck here. Now that's Taurus energy. It can speak to a lot of different things. It can speak to your money, your material environment altogether. Just cut the deck and the 2 of Cups is there as well. But it can also talk about where you take responsibility or where you need to take responsibility. And we will get into it, Capricorn. We'll have a look. I know the cards are quite busy, and so is the cloth, but I'm sure we'll all cope. So, tell me about the moon. Why is that here for Capricorn, please? Well, we have the Tower, okay. Scorpio energy. About this moon. And we have the Strength card reversed. Okay. Tell me about the 2 of Cups, please. Ooh. 2 of Pentacles reversed. And the moon again, okay. And what about the King of Pentacles, please? Queen of Swords, it's Libra, and the 3 of Cups. Right, we've got the 9 of Pentacles at the bottom of the deck there. So you'll note that I haven't turned this, it's come out sideways, and so I'm going to honour that. I'm going to keep it as it is, because I feel, for me personally, and I'm probably tarot traditionalists all over the planet fainting in shock right now, for me, every aspect of pulling these cards out is part of the reading. So if a card does not commit to being in the upright or being in the reverse, then there's a message in there too, and we need to pay attention to it. So as a brief overview, I mean, before we even get started, it feels like things have been really quite difficult recently. I mean, I see that here. I mean, that's huge. And it continues to be so here, actually. But we do seem to be coming to some sort of resolution over here, and that's very important. So let's get into it. We've got the moon as the very first card. It's the card of Cancer in the major arcana, and it speaks to deep introspection. I mean, the moon card is given to be the things that are hidden, right? The things that aren't quite as obvious as we might get with the sun, right? And the way that I read the cards means that quite often this is about the workings of the subconscious. It's quite a Jungian perspective, but there's stuff going on. There are big shifts that have been happening in your subconscious. And I actually really, really love the Triple Goddess version of the moon here, because it does have somebody looking in the mirror and seeing themselves as they actually are. We'll just pull that card up there. The expression on her face gives the it gives us the idea that she doesn't quite like what she sees, and I think that that's really important, because if we have a look around inside and we go, yep, this is all good, I like this, there's no impetus to change. And I feel like the impetus to change is very strong running through this reading here. I mean, not only do we have the moon twice, so we've got some fairly deep introspection going on, or certainly things happening at a deep level. And if you don't like what it is that you see, it seems to me December is an opportunity to change that in some sort of way. But we start off with in your recent past, and that could be this morning, or it could be, I don't know, maybe as much as 6 weeks back from where you are right now. There's this kind of, it feels almost like a dawning realization that things haven't been quite as straightforward within oneself as we had thought up until this point. And maybe that's because of compartmentalization or all sorts of things. What I am not saying is that you are having a miserable time and it's all your fault, which is what somebody took the reading to mean last month. How they quite got to the conclusion that they did, I don't know, because that's not what was said. They also told me to go fuck myself. So, all right. I mean, okay, whatever. Excuse me. We've got the Tower and we've got the Strength card in the reverse down here. And this is really important because it is speaking to the route that we have to our internal places that show us where we have been powerless, right? Where perhaps we might have been covering that feeling of powerlessness by just simply not thinking about it, not looking at it, but it's been there and it's been draining away your energy for the longest time. Now we've got this Tower card here, and I love this Tower. I didn't understand it when I first got the deck. I was like, what the fuck, how is that a Tower? And then I realised it was all in the cat. Like, that's how that should be. And when the Tower hits, it does really rather feel like the world has been pulled out from underneath us. To it, I think it's one of the most inspired Tower cards I've ever seen in my fucking life, actually. It makes loads of sense. Anyway, we've got shifts and changes that occur on a really deep subconscious level when you have these two cards together, and what they are doing is exposing where you've been giving your power away, where you've been feeling powerless, and more importantly, the reasons why. Because so many of us struggle with this idea that we can't influence anything, our lives, or we get stuck in a mindset of victimhood. It's not my fault, all that sort of stuff. And sorry, I'm just trying to pick up another deck here because I want to pull some more cards. And you can see how people get to that place, particularly when things have been hard. And Capricorn, things have been hard for you. I just want to, straight up acknowledge that for you. But the discomfort has been for a purpose. It's been for a reason. And this here is something that we want to get turning the right way up, which means that the deep introspection is giving you something. The discomfort is giving you something, and it's giving you an opportunity to change that which makes you feel like you are not an infinite being full of infinite potential that just happens to be wearing a meat suit right now. Tell me about this Strength card in reverse, please. Yeah, we've got the Two of Wands. It's like, whether you know it or not, you're actually at a crossroads where you are able to tackle this energy and do something about it. And you've been there for a while. And it's been deeply uncomfortable. We've got the Nine of Swords at the bottom of the deck. And this tension between what has been such a deeply entrenched view, a deeply entrenched idea of self, almost, that is now shifting and morphing and changing around. And you're like, what the fuck, who even am I? I'm not entirely sure at this point. It's a routine. And often this comes back to beliefs that were instilled in childhood about self, about other people, about the value of self. Like, that's been a big one. This is why I was so startled by that comment last month, because at no point have I ever said, this is all your fault. What I have said is, you've been working to a script that is outdated and incredibly fucking restrictive, and it's time to change it. And whether that's to do with, self-worth, where you look for validation, all those kind of things. You've been hovering on this Two of Wands, this crossroads, for quite some time now. The Two of Wands for me is a very internal card too. trying to work out the right way to go. And it's like all of the equipment that you've got to navigate your way around is kind of grubby, right? It needs a bit of a clean. Compass is no good to you if you can't see where the needle's pointing, you know. So it's almost like an internal cleanup operation. And last month I do think I called that, you know, sweeping the board clean or something like that to come up with the new direction. I mean, this is what this is. The Tower energy shakes loose that which is no longer serving you and goes, right, why are you even working with this anymore? What's this got to do with anything? It's time to let that go. This might have been true for 15-year-old Capricorn or 20-year-old Capricorn, but where you are right now, it's no longer serving you. All it's doing is holding you back, and worse, it is disempowering you, and we don't want that. Now, when we move into your current energy, we've got the Two of Cups, and I think that this is super, super important, because when it comes to self-reflection, it can often be very, very difficult to see what it is within us that needs to change. Right? Short of something kind of sudden and shocking that slaps us in the face and we're like, oh, holy shit, I didn't realise I was behaving like that. A lot of the time, the only real perspective that we can gain is through the mirror of, through the reflection of our personal relationships. So the question of the kind of people that are around you, I think, did we talk about this last month? I think we might have done, Capricorn. Who are these people? Are they, you know, are they good TM people? Do they make you feel supported? Do they make make you feel loved? I mean, is there a reciprocal relationship going on here? And like I said, this doesn't have to be just your intimate sexual relationships. This can be relationships that you have with friends, business partners. It's any relationship where there is a degree of intimacy. And maybe the intimacy is the thing that this is all hinging on, Capricorn, because it's like, to what extent do you allow it? You know, we could go off in an entirely different direction with this Two of Cups, but the fact that the moon is underneath there, and we've got the Two of Pentacles in reverse, and that, for me, is a card of coping, right? That's a card of getting all your stuff together and juggling it nicely and being very efficient, doing all the things that Capricorn likes to do, right? We are bossing this energy. When it's in the reverse, it sort of suggests to me more coping mechanisms. What are the coping mechanisms that you have had in place with regard to relationships? Because intimacy of certain sorts really fucking worries you. Like it's something that you've swerved away from for your entire life. Maybe it indicates trust issues, something like that. But you're being asked to look at where it is that you've either let people in or haven't let people in. If you haven't let people in, you can probably track it back to a point where you did let people in, and then there was some sort of, you know, event that happened that told you in that moment that it was not a good thing to let people in. And from that point on, that's been the default, right? Keep everybody at arm's length, and then they can't affect you in the deep sensitive places. We've got the Knight of Pentacles with the Four of Cups. We've got the Six of Cups, and we've got the Four of Wands. And this is, look at that. We've got the Queen of Pentacles at the bottom of the deck, which is the card of Capricorn. It's a card of nurturing. It's a card of self-worth. It's a card of looking after yourself. But looking after yourself differently to the way that you have done up until this point. Because if all your external relationships are in some way or another a reflection of self, then looking at them to see which ones are unsatisfactory are going to as much tell you something about yourself as they are about the nature of the relationship that you're holding right now. Now, Knight of Pentacles is Virgo, but it also talks about commitment. It talks about discipline, actually, to a big degree. It can talk about that energy of putting one foot in front of the other and plodding along, right? Because we've got something that we're trying to do here. But it's showing up twice. There's a critical aspect to the Knight of Pentacles, which is this sort of shadowy aspect of Virgo energy. It's kind of looking for the problems. In this case, I actually feel like the critical, picky energy of Virgo, which it can be sometimes, is doing you a massive favour, because it's allowing you to look at something clearly for the first time in a way that you haven't done before. It's like, this is the task in front of me, and I actually have to sit and work through this, because this crossroads energy won't really let you do anything else. Now, whether the tower is hit in your internal place and that energy has now cleared in order to let you look at what remains, or whether the tower is just the recognition that there is something going on inside of you that requires some sort of attention. It'll be different for each of you. But that Virgo energy is like, right, well, there's some things that need to be looked at here. And the Four of Cups and the Six of Cups form a huge part of it. The Six of Cups talks about our past. I can talk about all sorts of things, actually. But historical aspects are usually first and foremost in the interpretations of this. So it can be your distant past, as in your childhood. It can speak to children. Actually, you may be having issues with children at the moment. It can even speak to past life stuff. So, that can make things difficult if you're dragging around something that you've done several times before in other lifetimes. Trying to unpick that is quite a tricky proposition. But it all sort of hinges around this Four of Cups. Now, sometimes the received wisdom of the Four of Cups is that it's about boredom or apathy or something like that, right? And yeah, that fits sometimes, but most of the times for me, it speaks more to the way that we try and protect what we have emotionally. This fits very neatly with what we've talked about a lot, Capricorn, right? That deepest, most sensitive part of you kind of locked away and inaccessible. A desire not to be intimate on that level because of the pain that it causes. The thing is, I think for you, there's an awareness now that the very thing that you've tried to avoid for the longest time is the thing that you actually crave. And trying to access that through any other mechanism other than through self and going inward has brought you up short. Frankly, there just isn't the opportunity to do that in the way that you thought might be possible. What's going on here tracks back to childhood very, very strongly. And we've got the Four of Wands. I mean, the Four of Wands is the card of home, right? But when this comes up most often, we're talking about the creation of a new foundation. One where happiness, your comfort, your security, and all of those things that we associate with home, but on a more kind of ephemeral rather than material level, certainly on an emotional level with what we've got going on here, is being activated. It's like, it's okay for you, Capricorn, to have these things too. The material stuff's all well and good and necessary, but there is a part of you that is requiring freedom. And I think that what you're starting to realise is that it is you who walled that stuff up. Positive intent, always, but there comes a point where whatever was started with a positive intent starts to restrict where you are going. And I think this is where you're at right now, is realising that there are things going on here that require some deeper investigation. And, for some of you, and it's probably a busy time of year for everyone, but certainly for counsellors and therapists and stuff like that, it might be a really good time to start that kind of process. I mean, you don't need to go to a therapist specifically if you are prepared to be radically honest enough with yourself that you could maybe sit down and journal. You could meditate about this. You know, you could just sit down and think about all of your closest relationships. Like, what are they telling you about the energy that you're in at the moment, and how can that be changed? How can that be shifted? Because the Two of Wands, the Tower card, these are all talking to shifts that need to occur. And that Four of Wands there, you know, what you desire and what you have are two very different things. So how do you start the process of reclaiming for yourself the Four of Wands, rather than the Four of Cups being that which sits right in the centre of everything? I mean, that Four of Cups for me often talks about abandonment issues, Capricorn. And I can feel everybody flinching from the screen as I say this, but I see it come out most consistently to speak to that. And what is abandonment issues? Well, for the longest time, I thought that abandonment issues were purely those people who are super needy, right? If you're a Capricorn sun or ascendant, you know exactly what I mean. And those people probably give you the horrors just a little bit. You're just like, I don't want to ever be like that. But there's another kind of abandonment issue, and that is the psychopathically independent. I'm going to do everything for myself. I'm not going to let people in. I don't need to depend on people. I don't need to do any of that. I will do it only for myself. That's a trauma response, Capricorn. Took me a long time to work that out. In fact, I didn't work it out. I read something somewhere, and it was like being slapped in the face. I could not believe how obvious it was, but I needed it pointing out to me. Once we hit that point of recognition that we are actually in a traumatized state and we're trying to protect something that is really precious, that we know innately to be really, really precious, and yet has no way of truly being expressed, this is when breakthroughs start to happen. And I do think that this is where you are here. There is a genuine desire to claim for yourself what is yours, you know, and not divorce yourself from it any further. That is going to put you into an uncomfortable place, because you are going to have to do things that are going to feel, by definition, vulnerable and exposing. But you're a powerful creature. You've got a 100% hit rate on surviving all of the things that you've been through so far. And I think that you've tried everything else. And the only thing really that's left is the moon. It is going within. It is having a look and seeing what it is that is missing from your life that you currently want. And then beginning the process of instituting that, you know. When we come to what's coming towards you in December, we have the King of Pentacles with the Queen of Swords and the Three of Cups. And I think that this is a really interesting set of cards. Like I said, King of Pentacles can be absolutely paying more attention to your material environment, right? It's associated with Taurus. It's a fellow earth sign. It's about taking charge of things, and often it's about providing for others. It's about working to some sort of long-term plan. But in your case, I really do feel like it's an attempt to tidy up what's been going on for you recently. You know, one of the things that I haven't mentioned, and I probably should bring up, is that there's a Mars-Uranus. There has been a Mars-Uranus conjunction that happened in November the 11th, I think, that might well have activated this process that we're talking about here. Now, in the moment, when these things happen, deeply uncomfortable, very unsettling, pulling the wool, the rug out from underneath us and showing us things that we haven't seen before. Like, December feels much more about, kind of coming to a place where the dust has settled, and now we're starting to create some sort of plan moving forwards. And it's interesting that we should be talking about, emotional stuff, sociable stuff. And we've had the Two of Cups and the Four of Cups here. Six of Cups as well, right? There's a lot of water on the table for you here, Capricorn. But what's been missing in the jump from the two between the 2 and the 4 is this 3 here. Now that for me is emotional support networks. That talks about, the people who are closest to you that you care about, whether in a business sense, a romantic sense, whatever, right? It's your people, your tribe, whoever they are. But this Queen of Swords here, falling sideways as she hasn't decided whether she's going to be separating herself and cutting certain people away, or perhaps whether there's a fear of throwing the baby out with the bathwater. She's in this very non-committal place of saying there are decisions to be made this month, Capricorn, particularly with regard to the people that you surround yourself with. People perhaps for whom you are responsible, because the responsibility comes out really strong with the King of Pentacles. And that could be, people who are financially dependent on you. It could be people who are, colleagues at work who are dependent on you in some sort of way. There's a high sense of responsibility here. You taking responsibility for something and taking a longer term view, which Capricorns like to do anyway, right? You're not very much in the moment kind of people, unless you happen to have a Sag ascendant or something like that, right? It's setting a plan and working to it. And I think Capricorns do delayed gratification better even than Taurus does. But we've got both on the table here. And so there's a balance between what you need and what everybody else needs. And I think that this is what is being shaken up for you this month. Quite how you're going to do it seems like something that you're going to be working through in December, rather than arriving at a set idea that this is how things are going to go. But until that Queen of Swords turns around one way or another, she talks about processing information. And another way of looking at this card here is that perhaps you just don't have yet all the information that you need to make the decisions about who carries on the path with you, Capricorn, and who gets left by the wayside. Some of it might be down to looking at your own motivations and behaviours and all that kind of thing, and making sure that you're not being the stone cold bitch that the Queen of Swords in reverse can be sometimes. This way around, she's much better at kind of putting her emotions to one side and looking at things logically and rationally. This way around, it's not putting the emotions to one side, it's locking them in a box and never letting them see the light of day. We've got another sort of tipping point here for you in December. That's beautiful. Because in some ways it's a huge continuation on from what we saw last month for you. But most importantly, what we're seeing is the Strength card coming up in the upright, and we're seeing you get off the tipping point, right? Get off that 2 of Wands into 3 of Wands territory. And where the 3 of Wands is, where the 2 of Wands is internal, the 3 of Wands is very much external. It's about the things that you do. It's about the steps that you take to bring about what you decided was important in the 2 of Wands, and bring more of that into your life. I mean, sometimes I see the 3 of Wands as actually totally changed behaviour. And it's interesting that we should be seeing that coming up with the 3 of Cups there. It suggests that if you've been in an isolated state, the realization that you kind of put yourself there might be something that's coming up for Capricorns this month, and realizing that tentatively you have to put your foot in the water and allow other people in, being a huge part of it. Or maybe it's the people that are around you are actually not very good for you. We've got the Page of Wands at the bottom of the deck, and here with this 9 of Pentacles, it's about reordering where your energy is going. The 9 of Pentacles, is about where you invest, right? It's investing in you for sure, but it's how you manage what resources you have at your disposal. And I think because you're moving very much more towards creation, some things have got to go. I'm not sure that it will be entirely clear to you, to the extent that you can make a plan in December, as to who stays and who goes, or what you show up for and what you don't. But there's a willingness here to, like I said, kind of put the toe in the water and have a look at what feels right for you. Because if you've noticed that you've got this internal mechanism that throws up the drawbridge anytime anybody gets too close, or when there's something that touches something that's a little bit painful for you, kind of putting that down and knowing that you are a powerful creature and going, well, I'm just going to put my toe out here and see how that is. Because maybe it's not the people, maybe it's not the situation, maybe not the circumstances, maybe it's my fear of those. This is new, this is creative, this is getting out there and doing things. This is working out what you need to know, I think, as you go along. It's not entirely clear this month for you, and that's, I wish it could be, because then when things are clear, you can make a proper plan. But things are clear enough and becoming clearer, such that rather than a map that shows you the next 2 miles ahead, maybe you've just got a little light that's coming on in front of you, and you take a couple of steps and that light goes out and then another one pops up. It would be a month for making sure that you are reflecting at every point, checking in with yourself how you actually feel about something, how you feel about a set of people, paying attention to what your body is telling you actually, which would be a very King of Pentacles kind of thing to do. It's kind of like bringing it back to the somatic and saying, when I'm around these people, I feel good. When I'm around these people, I feel not so good. Maybe I fall into kind of behaviours that I would rather were not part of my life. To bring this up, I had an Aquarius friend who, in the middle of a conversation once, just declared, before deciding that one is depressed, one should first check that we're not surrounded by arseholes. And I just looked at her and then I just started cackling, because it was absolutely correct. It was delivered in a very Aquarian way, but it was absolutely correct. The shift away from what you thought you wanted towards what you actually want isn't quite as clear-cut as just shifting 90 degrees and heading off that way. There's a lot here that's uncertain, because there's a lot here that is asking you to dig down into you and see how you actually feel about these things, rather than how you thought you felt like it about it. Because there's a certain kind of riding over the top of your own emotions that you've been doing for such a long time. That possibly they haven't formed part of your decision-making process, where it seems to me from December they are absolutely being part of the process. This is very interesting. Right, I'm going to go over to Vimeo now, or actually I'm going to go do the extended. You can join me on Vimeo or you can join me on Circle, it's entirely up to you. If neither of those are your bag, that's absolutely fine. What I would say about this month is, don't try forging ahead too fucking hard on anything. It's like, take a couple of steps, see where the land lies, see how you feel, right? But it's absolutely a time for checking in really, really deeply with yourself, and then coming back to the surface and going, so what's going on out here? Who are the people who are out here? How do I feel about this? And then going back in. It's sort of in and out this month. But the focus is becoming more on the out than the in. The moon belongs to the past and the present. For the rest of December, it's about making sense of it. And I would try to make sense of it, Capricorn, if you want that strength card to start really vibing around in your energy, because the strength card in reverse is not a nice place to be. Strength card in the upright, Queen of Swords in the upright, these are good energies. 3 of Wands, Page of Wands, these are excellent. But you need to get really, really clear about what you feel and what you think. Maybe owning some of the things that you don't want to own, but not taking responsibility for things that are not yours. Alright, I'm going to leave it there. Know that I love you all very, very much, and again, happy birthday if you're a December Capricorn. Take care, and I'll see you soon.